You are now listening to a special episode of the WolfPack Podcast with an interview with our very honored guest. Sit back, drink your blue milk, and enjoy this amazing episode.
Hey everybody, you're listening to another episode of the WolfPack Podcast, but today is an extremely special episode. This isn't our usual weekly, podcast. This is very special guest. Everybody's lined up tonight. Unfortunately, Nabil could not make it, but most of us are here and we're ready to ask our guest some really cool questions, and he was nice enough to come on the show, and we're very excited to introduce him. Of course, he is the supervising director of Star Wars: The Clone Wars and the executive producer of Star Wars Rebels, and he, of course, is the reason we are the WolfPack. He created the WolfPack, so it's very cool to have, the guy who created the WolfPack on the show. So without a further ado, we have our special guest, Mr. Dave Filoni. So how are you doing today, Dave?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Good. It's a pleasure to have you on, as I'm sure our podcast name will... I'm sure you knew off the bat as soon as, you probably saw our podcast name, the WolfPack Podcast. It's your work has been very inspirational to all of us, and, we really appreciate it.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, WolfPack. It's definitely caught my attention, so, it's somewhat of a small global phenomenon at this point. I've actually met WolfPack members in Florida and WolfPack members from Calgary. When I was in Celebration in Germany, I met some more WolfPack members. So they're a far-reaching group now. I like it.
Yeah, they definitely are. I mean, you got, like you were saying, so many people dress up as Wolf or, Boost or whatever you got, Plo Koon. And the WolfPack almost, in my opinion, is kind of defines Clone Wars in a way, so it's kind of cool.
Well, it's unique to Clone Wars. I think that's one of the things that in each generation of Star Wars fandom, I think that groups now have things they strongly identify with, and obviously a lot of the prequel era fans have identifiable starships and the Naboo Starfighter and the Trade Federation and battle droids, and just the Jedi in general and what they look like is very emblematic of their era. And when you get to Clone Wars, we have a lot of those same things, but we also have very specifically, clones like Commander Wolf and the WolfPack. Their symbol really doesn't exist in anything but Clone Wars, at least for now. So we'll have to see. For me, one thing that's exciting moving forward is just seeing how things that we did the last 8 years on Clone Wars affects Star Wars going forward and where things turn up. And,
right.
Things turn up all the time. It seems little things like, even in toys, they just, I guess Gentle Giant, I think it was, put out, or it was Sideshow, put out that Wolf figure that had the really detailed, realistic action figure of Commander Wolf, because that wound up on my desk, which was awesome.
That is cool. That is a very...
That's a really good one.
Oh yeah, that's a very nice piece from Sideshow. All right, so we're gonna go ahead.
One of the things I wanted, if I can just jump in, one of the things that I wanted to say, you kind of mentioned, different eras of Star Wars, and the Clone Wars was really a whole new generation of fans that has come up, of which I have to say, Corey, you are definitely one of. I'm a generation of the older fans, but that's kind of what I like about our show, is that we have such a mix and it's such a different dynamic to our discussions and conversations. And I just wanted to thank Dave for really spearheading that and holding it through all these years.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, I appreciate that. It's something that George and I used to talk about quite a bit. Was that there would be a bunch of kids that interacted with Clone Wars, and that would frankly be the first Star Wars that they came in contact with. It's a bit harder sometimes for the early generations of fans to comprehend that, but while kids might know who Darth Vader is or Luke Skywalker on a pop culture level, a lot of them never really watched a Star Wars story unfold until they saw, Rex, Anakin, and Ahsoka. So it is different, and, I don't know really how to judge it, except as time moves on, I see a lot of what we did stick, and, I think what the great thing the prequel era and then the Clone Wars era really brought to Star Wars was it really broadened the canvas, which is a term that George always used. But it allowed Star Wars to branch out and tell a vast array of stories, especially Clone Wars, because we no longer had to service just the Skywalker family story. So we could have whole episodes about clones like Fives. We could have whole episodes about Jedi like Plo Koon or Luminara. And I think at that point, a bunch of us as fans were ready for that, and we wanted that. And, I think we'll see a lot of that continue in Star Wars now that, we have all these outlets thanks to, the Walt Disney Company. I really think we'll be able to reach, hard to believe, more fans than ever. So the global community of Star Wars will just grow.
Oh, yeah.
Funny that you say that, because when back on one of the old Forcecast episodes, I said to Jason, it's only a matter of time before kids don't know who Darth Vader is, and he thought I was nuts.
That's funny. Yeah,
we're going to find out.
They'll always know, but they just come at it from a completely different angle than we did. I mean, we used to talk about it on Clone Wars. Do you imagine the kids that now when they hear Obi-Wan say, I was once a Jedi Knight the same as your father, that he fought in the Clone Wars, well, there's a really good chance they've seen all of that. And you and I had no idea what it was. We imagined what it might be, and I had no idea that years later I would be a person that helped bring it to life. I still try to wrap my head around that, but, it's Star Wars, it's interesting for so many reasons, but now it's just interesting because it's a story that's existed so long in the awareness of people in their minds, and to be honest, thankfully, it shows no sign of stopping, which I like. It's a place people love to see stories unfold.
Oh, without a doubt, yeah. Like you were saying earlier about, people wanted to know about Obi-Wan. I mean, even being a younger fan and watching Episode 4, I must have been probably about 6 when I watched it. I still wanted to know what was going on, and thankfully, your guys' show brought that to the screen. So it's amazing. It's really cool. Love what you guys did with the Clone Wars. Just amazing show. But we were able to get everybody else into this call, so we're gonna go ahead and start off with a few questions. First off, we're gonna start with Mike. Can you hear us, Mike?
Yeah, thanks. Hi, Dave. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yep.
So I wanted to ask you, this past Star Wars weekend, I saw Ashley, and I asked her a question about the Mortis arc, and she said, she couldn't answer it. She said that's a question for Dave Filoni, so now I have the good fortune of being able to ask you that question. So I wanted to ask you, in the Mortis arc, when Ahsoka, she indirectly led to the death of the light side of the Force, a.k.a. the daughter, so I was wondering if you think she felt any guilt over that.
Well, I don't know. I mean, because it's not really a willful action on her part, and because things in the Mortis world were so extreme in their personification, she was out of her depth, and she was kind of out of her own consciousness at that point. I don't think that she was really aware of that. And even at the end when she was brought back, a lot of people have speculated if there's any great significance to the fact that the daughter's life, really is what resuscitates Ahsoka. But, it's not a world where you're suddenly imbued with any real superpowers. It's just, all that does is it really interprets once again the idea that a selfless act is the highest form of good, that when you're truly selfless, amazing things can occur. You see this happen, of course, when Vader killed the Emperor, sacrificing himself for his son. And there were other themes in Clone Wars that we had worked on that, you see even Heavy sacrifices himself for his friends so they can live. It's a repetitious theme of putting others ahead of yourself. So even though, the daughter sacrifices herself, Ahsoka's not really imbued with anything that's more significant or special than life. And though she indirectly leads, to the death of the daughter, in some ways there's an inevitability to that because the son is acting, it's like the daughter says, he's acting out of his nature. That's why she doesn't hate her brother. That's why she doesn't hate the son. And so these characters act according to their nature, and they're really a device of the great opera of life. They just are so powerful they've become an alternate reality of it. There were a portion of the Yoda arc from season 6 where the priestesses mention the Mortis gods, the Force wielders, but to them, they thought of them as almost like children because the priestesses are kind of devoid of that type of pettiness to say, I am evil and I am good and I am the Father. And if you notice, none of their language is really that. Mm-hmm. They are almost neutral in every way. And I thought Jamie, of course, played that beautifully, playing all those characters. That's really ultimately one character. So that's a long way of saying I don't think Ahsoka felt any guilt because I don't think that she really was an active participant. There are things I think in her life that she definitely, in the end, feels guilty about that are a result of some choices she makes, but not necessarily at that point.
Okay. All right.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much. All right, and my question, again, thank you for coming on the show, Dave. We really appreciate it. But how did it come about that you guys got Mark Hamill involved for the voice of Darth Bane in the Yoda arc?
Yeah, well, Mark is someone that we had wanted to work with on Clone Wars for a long time, and in fact, it might have been as early as season 2 that when I was doing a voice record in LA, Mark was doing a voice record in the same building, and he came over to my studio and said, when am I going to be a part of the Star Wars show? And, I was, kind of stunned because there's Luke Skywalker asking me if he could be a part of Star Wars, which is kind of ridiculous. So I told him then and there, I said, Mark, I would love to have him be a part of the show, but I needed to have something that I thought would be worth his time. Okay. I didn't want to just cast him as like a throwaway character or a character that just, was in a cantina somewhere. It had to be significant. And obviously it took a long time, several seasons, for me to figure that out. And when we had this, again, personification of Bane, I thought, well, here's a crazy opportunity to have Mark play, kind of this father of the Sith, and I know he does great villains, and, it was kind of playing the opposite of Luke Skywalker, like the anti-Luke Skywalker, the complete selfish Jedi who's absorbed with maintaining his own life and that of his evil, group. So, thankfully Mark agreed that was something he wanted to do, and I thought he brought a great performance to it. Even though it was brief, I thought it was significant. And as it turned out, I'm glad we did it because there weren't episodes after that. So it was all kind of lucky at the end of the day that it worked out that way.
Right. I mean, I know leading up to the season 6, Netflix, we were all wondering, is Mark Hamill going to be a part of these, lost missions? Because obviously at Celebration he talked about working on the show, and we were all pretty worried that we wouldn't be able to see his performance. But I mean, I think what you did with his character was awesome. I mean, you brought a very popular character from the EU and mixed it with one of the most popular characters of all time. I mean, it was a spectacular performance and just a great choice.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, I thought so. Mark is, a great talent, obviously, and I was very grateful for his inclusion in Clone Wars. I'm glad we got it in there. It would have been an incredibly huge missed opportunity if we hadn't got him in there.
Yeah, that would definitely. But my question is, so obviously, about a month or two ago, you released a blog on StarWars.com that showed, what could have happened, or concept art, in the later seasons. So my question was, well, first off, my favorite character in Star Wars in general is Ahsoka. So it was very cool to see that her story would have continued, based on the concept art. So my question is, would we have seen Ahsoka and Bo Katan eventually work together, in the Clone Wars?
Well, yeah, I think without giving away anything significant, because I'll say this about, because I said as much, that there was a lot of stories for Clone Wars left. Obviously, there were a lot of ideas that I worked on with George. But what I can say about that is that even though we didn't finish those things, those stories are still very special to everybody at Lucasfilm. And Disney completely respects that there is we all feel like the information that was passed on and some ideas about characters and story, especially that were ideas George had, are significant, and they're kind of like landmarks for us to understand, where certain stories were going to go. And we have no intention of ever giving up those landmarks, and we keep them in mind when we're developing all sorts of stories across Star Wars now. So it was my hope and part of the future for that character to involve her with the character of Bo Katan, just because I really like Bo Katan. Obviously, I thought that was a great character. Kate Sackhoff did a great job with her, and there was some logic, I thought, to having those characters cross paths when you look at where they both ended up by the end of season 5. You have two women who largely have lost their way, they've lost their orders, they've lost their kind of structured existence. Bo Katan probably felt immensely betrayed. Ahsoka felt immensely betrayed. I like things like that because I think it gives reasons for drawing characters together. I could see several situations where, I had also just as much reason to draw, say, Ventress and Ahsoka back together for a continued story because, A, Ahsoka owed her big time for helping her out, and I think that it would be like Ahsoka to actually live up to fulfilling that debt. So, there were a lot of great possibilities, and I think that the further we went with Clone Wars, so we always loved writing stories with Anakin and Obi-Wan. We had so much more room to write stories that were based on Ventress or Ahsoka or Rex. Even Hondo was taking on, very large personality, and it seemed to be gaining ground and interest from fans because he was such a wild card,
Right.
Hondo's somebody that I could picture years down the line actually knowing, in Hondo's mind, an annoying young pilot who thinks he's really hot stuff and makes the Kessel run faster than everybody. I can see Hondo loving and hating somebody like Han Solo. So, just again, when you look at the prequel era and then what grew out of that in Clone Wars, and how we eventually in our timeline collide with the classic films, it allows all this room and all this potential. So I'm very, very connected, obviously, to the character of Ahsoka, having been such a large part of every aspect of her creation and character. So I have a very watchful eye on any and everything that attempts to go on with that character. I am very, careful about where I think I have any dominion in Star Wars because I ultimately think it's something that belongs to whatever creatives are attempting to make it, and they need room and respect to do what they need to do. But if somebody's doing something with Ahsoka or ever attempting to, I'm always going to be knocking on a door saying, well, let me tell you, this is what I think.
Right.
I think most fans would want it that way. I really do. So, and I get that respect. So we'll see. Who knows what the future holds? Probably I know, but I can't say.
Right.
Let's just leave it there. But I really appreciate you liking that character. It was a lot of work we put into making Ahsoka, and kind of like I told Ashley always, we're going to start in a place where people are probably going to find her annoying, and we're going to have to win people over. And I warned her, I said, you can't focus on immediate likability. You have to be in this for the long game and find a way to make this character grow up and experience things. And hopefully by the end, people will see what we were trying to do with her. And I think that in the end, she earned her place with some of the Star Wars greats. That's my hope.
Oh, definitely.
I totally agree with that. I mean, the series as a whole was really Ahsoka's journey. I mean, that last scene, there wasn't a dry eye in the house,
Right.
Totally she won over fans.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, I mean, that character has just really, 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 I mean, obviously, has just sprouted, and looking forward to see what the future holds for her. Hopefully Clone Wars Season 5 wasn't the last time we saw her, and I did like that little cameo we got of her in Season 6, so it wasn't the happiest, but it was still... It was still cool to see him, or see her be on there. The funny thing about that was, though, on Netflix, when they show the picture of what's, when you click on the episode and you see a image of what the episode's going to be, the image was Yoda kind of bending down next to Ahsoka, and I know all of us were like, oh my gosh, what's going on? So.
Oh no, I didn't know that. Yeah, what's funny about that is that's a little bit of luck as well, because in the original script, it wasn't Ahsoka that was there. It was actually Petro, the kid from the Youngling arc. And when I saw the rough cut of the scene, that was really well done, I was like, this is fine and all, but, Petro's a nice kid, but I don't care.
Right.
I mean, I'm not trying to be mean, but it's like, why are we emotionally invested in this kid? If we really want this to land, it has to be somebody that we care about. And the audience at large knows what's going to happen to Anakin, and they know what happens to Obi-Wan. It can't be them. We know Mace. It has to be somebody that this could be potentially a truth and something that we would be worried about. So I said, we need to change it to Ahsoka. And, everybody was for that because they instantly saw the logic of it. And it really turned out to be, I think, a much more powerful moment, especially given what everyone had seen and had not seen her up to that moment. So it became really like, ooh, very significant thing, and probably something people have wondered about her with what she asked is, will I be a Jedi? If I die at this point, what does that mean for me? It's just significant. So it's a lot of people, even at Lucasfilm, ask me about Ahsoka. They want to know what happens to her, and they want to know where is she going and when will we see her next. And all I ever say to that is that maybe it's mean, but I don't mean it to be mean, but I actually really like that people wonder about it. I like that there's this space where, as a fan and as somebody that's invested in this character, you have the ability to imagine what they're going through now, to imagine if they will show up again in some future way. And I think we always had that from the original trilogy era. We had to wait so long between movies to see what happened to Han, or what, that... who was Boba Fett? Like, we didn't know. And now in this kind of ever-ready media age, I think we get our answers really quickly. So right now, I think that it's a nice breather moment for everybody to say, well, it could be this and it could be that. One thing that, because I'm such a fan of so many things myself, is that, you know, fans have a right to argue and debate and ask questions and come up with answers, and, you know,
Right.
it's part of the fun of liking this stuff, is not knowing. And then, you know, whatever we do in the end, it's part of the fun to hate that, and send me a lot of emails about it, too. But that's all part of it, you know, or you can send emails how much you like it, you know. That's why I always like it. I always like the debate. I think some people take it the wrong way, and, like, when people dislike something, it's actually because they like it so much, and they care about it, and I'm always willing to address those concerns. You know, like when the Mandalorian bomb hit and they were pacifists, I knew what that meant to people, and I never take that. I never take that lightly. I always am willing to discuss it, and I don't ask people to like what we did just because. You know, I would never demand that. I just say, hey, this is why we did it. You can take it or leave it. I get it. And now, but I hope that we made a great, exciting story.
Right.
What we did. That's always my goal, you know.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no, without a doubt. I mean, what we were saying earlier about, like, people speculating on that whole Ahsoka scene, I've already gotten some messages on our podcast Facebook page about people, you know, giving us suggestions on what could have happened to Ahsoka. One that we came up with was, you know, what if this is a premonition, and she got a beacon call that, you know, something was going on with the Jedi Temple, and she went to the Jedi Temple, and, you know, Anakin's there. So, yeah, we've had our speculations on it.
Never know.
Yeah, you never know, right? But we're gonna ask
Never
one.
I definitely couldn't say, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I always thought it would be cool if Ahsoka grew up to be Shakti hiding out in the Force Unleashed, and you had Vader's apprentice face off against Anakin's apprentice.
That would be shocking.
Yeah.
That would be shocking. That probably won't happen.
Yeah, that probably won't happen. I know. Shakti died a few times.
But hey,
so.
like I said, you know, it's like it's fun ideas, you know, and that's all part of it. It's probably how I wound up with this job.
Right.
I thought about Star Wars a lot.
Sorry, what was that?
I was wondering if we found out that Echo's still alive, and we never got a real clear-cut answer what happened to Barriss. Is there any chance that Barriss is still alive?
Yeah, Echo, that was something that I wanted to throw out there to people, because when we seemed to kill Echo, it was such a devastating thing. There were a lot of people that were very sad. So I thought, well, it's fair for them to know that we had written a whole story where it turned out that Echo wasn't dead, and there were reasons why. And in the urgency to escape the Citadel, that he had actually survived that blast, not in a great way, or certainly a way that, you know, he was probably comfortable with, but he had survived, and on some level, well, I don't want to get too far into the story, but he had survived. So there was a story there, and it was really fun. I enjoyed that one a lot, and I know he was important to people, so I was at least able to get that piece of information. Barriss Offee, actually, in the original script, did die. She had the nanobots also in her bloodstream that she had used for the assassin, then when he blew himself up, and so they didn't know that or hadn't scanned for it yet, and she actually blew up in her cell after she was detained. And I didn't, you know, I don't know, I thought that was too big of a lost opportunity. I think that Barriss is a really great character. Meredith does such a great job playing Barriss that I thought that, you know, with all the potential possibilities for Ahsoka after the point that she decides to leave when she does, that there is something left there that's not finished. It's just too nail in the coffin for me if it led also to Barriss' death. Because a lot of what Barriss says, her reasoning is absolutely true.
Right.
It's a real big conundrum. She's actually saying a lot of things that are true. Her actions are completely wrong. She's taken it to the extreme in the wrong way, but she is speaking the truth. So, I thought down the road there would have been a possibility for Ahsoka somehow to confront Barriss again with what went down, but, of course now that happens not to be the case. But a big driving factor for me in Ahsoka's leaving is that, she couldn't deny that a lot of what Barriss said was true.
Right.
Because she had just experienced the way that the Jedi Council misreads things and goes overboard and accuses things. And outside of Anakin supporting her and Obi-Wan, though to a lesser degree, she felt she's got to step back away from this and try to figure out what it all means.
Right.
There was a lot of questions about the Obi-Wan choice and not having him pleading more staunchly in favor of Ahsoka, but I think there's precedent when, basically Obi-Wan is asked by the Council to have Anakin, spy on the Chancellor. Obi-Wan's not comfortable with that, but it certainly doesn't mean he doesn't do it.
Right.
If he asks Anakin to do that, he does it as an emissary of the Council, basically. And Anakin calls him out, and he says, this is kind of messed up. You're asking me to spy on a friend and a mentor. And he calls him out, and you can tell Obi-Wan feels bad in that moment, but it didn't stop him from doing it. So I thought that he probably is definitely on the side that Ahsoka's not guilty, but Obi-Wan's issue is that he's too aware of how these things go down, having been a part of the Council for so long now in the war, and he knows that if he raises a strong objection, it's going to seem like he's not making that out of truth, but out of loyalty to somebody that would probably be a friend of his, would be betraying some type of attachment. So he takes his shots when he can to speak on her behalf. And Plo Koon does the same, unfortunately. And I always looked at it as Anakin was the most attached, obviously, to Ahsoka, would speak out the most for her because that's his nature. Obi-Wan's a little bit more warm for it. He wants to speak up for her, but he knows diplomatically that's not going to work. And Plo Koon, though he feels a great attachment to Ahsoka, obviously, we displayed, he's the most of the line Jedi about it, which is that he can't be attached to it because he has to see things clearly, and it seems thus that he doesn't care.
Right.
But you remember when she was lost on the Transition Moon, that Plo Koon acts pretty much the same way when he tells Anakin, there's nothing you can do.
Mm-hmm.
We search all the stars here, but you can't work this out for her. You're going to have to rely on the fact that you taught her well. So there's all these correlations, and I think it works for the most part.
Oh, without a doubt. Everything, it seems, is, connected within the Star Wars galaxy and a lot of the, principles of it. So, yeah, it all comes full circle. But one quick final question is, Disney Star Wars Weekends is coming up. So my question was, will you be attending any of the weekends?
At this point, I really can't say. My schedule is so volatile these days.
Right.
It's always a hope of mine to get down there. It's a great time. I love going down there. It's a great event. And we'll have to see. It's, my being in demand, I think is a good thing.
Yeah.
Because I get to, talk about Star Wars as much as possible to people that are wanting to know ever more and, find out more about what the experience is like working on Clone Wars. So there's a lot going on in the house these days at Lucasfilm. A lot of it my time is obviously occupied with Rebels, which is very exciting. I'm very pleased with what we're doing and the results we're getting back. I think that it's, the show is a real testament to how flexible my crew is and how they can change gears and do things in a new way. And, it's very exciting. I think we're getting really close to the visuals that we all want, that have a lot of feeling of Ralph McQuarrie's artwork in them. Mm-hmm. I would never sit there and say that we're hitting that exactly just out of pure respect for Ralph. He's a one-of-a-kind, and, at best, I think, Kelly and I were trying to reflect Ralph in the most flattering light that we can and still have our own voice in it. But, to have him as an inspiration point is, what a wonderful starting place for us all artistically. So I think that, I know Ralph likes Clone Wars because he came up and visited us, and we watched actually the Clone Wars movie with him.
Oh, cool.
And he enjoyed it, but I think that, to that end, he would enjoy Rebels even more, because I think that we have it down better. We're all better at what we do than we were. You got to remember, when we started Clone Wars, Kelly Plunkett and I, at least, that was almost 9 years ago,
right? Back
in 2005. So he and I had a lot more knowledge of how these CG shows work going into this run, and we're really excited by the outcome. And I have to say, Disney's been a great support to us, and I'm very excited at what they're going to present as far as getting this show to fans in a fast way. So that's going to be really exciting. When you work on something as hard as we are, you want as many people to see it as possibly can, and Disney is definitely, I think, going to deliver on that. But even more than that, I think they've proven to be a really good partner working on Star Wars with me. They really respect where I'm coming from as far as the storytelling goes and what it means to make something Star Wars.
Right.
And plus, working with Greg and Simon on this project has been just phenomenal to have two very strong storytelling voices with my own. And, I just feel very strongly that George was Star Wars in every possible way. He created it. It was his vision. It was that painting made by that particular artist, as personal as any, oil painting is to any specific artist. So
right.
Now, no one person's ever going to come in and replace that. But a group of us that respect the work that artist did, that love the work that artist did, and that learn from that artist, I think we've got a shot combining those elements at making something that, we'll all be proud of as fans, and that I think George would enjoy watching. Definitely, he'll send me notes once he watches it on TV if he doesn't, but I just won't have to follow it anymore because I work for Lucasfilm now and Kathy, but, that's my fun joke on him, so... Yeah, I'm excited about the future for you guys. I think you're going to enjoy what you're going to see.
Well, we're very excited, and the premiere will be this summer. But just real quickly, I need to understand what's going on with the premiere. Is this, a lot of people have been saying it's a Star Wars Rebels movie, and a lot of people are saying it's like an hour premiere. Is it like a movie or a premiere?
With the truth, I'll let my publicist. This is my safe place. My safe place will let my publicist answer this question, so I won't get in trouble. So here goes.
So I think we've already sort of communicated the fact that the series will launch with a 1-hour premiere on Disney Channel and XD.
Okay, all right.
It's all planned for television broadcast.
Okay, awesome. Well, yeah. Dave, thank you so much for coming on. We really did have a blast. I didn't even notice the time go by that fast, so...
Wow. Oh, thank you guys. Yep. I mean, thank you for naming it the WolfPack Podcast. I really appreciate that. And, thanks for all the follow-up on the show. It's, the voice of people that love stuff like this, I think it means a lot, because creative people that work in our industry now, we're also connected because of social media. We're very aware of what people think of the steps that we do. It doesn't always influence the choices we make because we have to stay true to our vision. But, I've always appreciated the outpouring from Star Wars fans, be it positive, be it negative. As a fan, having stood in the same lines you guys have at conventions, I like to get it. And 10 years almost into this thing, I honestly don't feel any different than I did in the beginning. I get just as excited when I see that, Sideshow's making a 12-inch Captain Rex figure as you guys do. I don't think anything could change that. It's something that I love, and I've always seen it as my job to, in some way, be a connection point for us all to get a look at what it's like to make this stuff and to lead the artists and production staff I get to make the best Star Wars stuff we can. So thank you, for being a part of it. Thank you for supporting it. And thank you for challenging us to always make it better. And that's what I'm going to get back to work doing now, hopefully making it better and tuning in to find out the Penguins have a lead on Columbus, because that has to happen today. Or Star Wars might go off track for a bit because I'll be sinking into depression. So we need a win, and we need some more Star Wars coming your way, and that's what you get. All right, guys, thank you so much. Great talking to you.
All right, Dave, thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Phil.
Alrighty, everybody, so we just finished up our interview with Dave Filoni, and that was something very special that we've been planning for a while, and we had to be quiet about it because we wanted it to be a surprise, but finally we got around to interviewing the very awesome and talented and just awesome Dave Filoni, and we're going to talk a little bit about kind of the answers he revealed to us about our questions of the Clone Wars, and just kind of talk a little bit about what's coming up for us on the show. Obviously, this is not our regular weekly podcast. This is a special. We'll continue to do a regular weekly podcast, but I don't know. Right now, we have Chris, Marco, Dan, and myself. So,
hey, everybody. Thought it was really great, getting insights from the, well, I not really the creator, because I kind of think of George that way. But, certainly one of the creators of the Clone Wars show, really telling us what his personal motivations were behind the characters. That was pretty awesome.
It was. I have to agree. I mean, he really went in deep, talking about Ahsoka and how that came about in the WolfPack in it. And I think my favorite portion of the interview was him kind of talking a little bit about the fate of Barriss Offee. I mean, that was very, very cool. I know this is a question a lot of us have been asking is, what happened to Barriss after, Clone Wars? Is she dead? Is she alive? And, well, you guys heard in the interview, she was supposed to blow up. So, it wasn't looking so good for Barriss.
Overall, I enjoyed the interview, listening to it, being part of it. Dave is just an awesome guy, just taking any question that's given to him and he just goes with it and just so informative about everything. That's what's just so great about Dave.
Yeah, I definitely. And we encountered a lot of tech issues in the beginning. We were supposed to, I don't know if you guys noticed, but we actually all did this over the phone, so it was a very lower volume than what we would have heard before.
It's more of a rough around the edges kind of show, but I think it came through pretty well.
Technical difficulties happen all the time. It's how you rise above them and meet those challenges, and I think we did a pretty darn good job tonight. So kudos to you, Corey, for saying, hey, I have 2 phones, so I don't use them.
Well, thank you. That was I think that was a lifesaver right there.
Right.
For the show, or else it would have just been me and Dave. So,
which would have been fine.
Which would have been extremely fine. But I want you guys to be a part of this as much as I'm sure I've been wanting to be a part of it. So, I'm really happy with the way it turned out. Dave is an amazing gentleman. I mean, just great. I think he did confirm to me that he's not coming to weekends. I'm pretty sure that's what that.
So now you can knock that off your list.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't technically confirm or deny anything.
That's very
that part
true.
I thought was pretty funny.
I did like that because I
always
know
seem to work in the shadows. Yeah. It's not going to out, but
I did like that because we always had the sense that, like, okay, now, I've always heard Dave say something like that, like, he doesn't want to reveal it all, and finally, for the first time talking to him, we've kind of heard that for the first time, at least I have. I know, Dan, you've talked to him before, but I've never actually heard him, say to us, like, oh, yeah, I don't know if I can talk about that, and it was kind of funny. He had to kind of get Tracy's help on one of the questions, so that was cool. No, yeah, just all in all, very cool answers, and it was great.
Yeah, and hearing Dave talk about Rebels more, about how true they're trying to stay to Ralph, and how Ralph actually watched the Clone Wars movie, then how he thought Ralph would really like Rebels more. I think that gives me a lot of faith in what they're doing for the new show, and I can't wait to see that.
Oh, truly. I mean, Dave is passionate about Star Wars, and you can tell it in his voice and his just the way he talks, and he loves it. And that's something that's cool, is you want to know that Star Wars is in good hands. You want to make sure that the person who's probably going to end up running Star Wars, it's in the right hands. And I think Dave Filoni, I think he has got it. I kind of wish he owned Lucasfilm now instead of Kathleen Kennedy, to be honest.
Yeah, I hope Dave breaks away from TV for the Star Wars like animated shows, and hopefully they'll give him like a feature film to work on that he could really make his own signature for it. And I think that'd be really good if they ever give him the chance.
Oh yeah, I mean,
I was a little disappointed he didn't like my idea of Ahsoka becoming Shakti in Force Unleashed.
Did he just?
Although I did want to kind of point out something, I forgot about it until just now. He kind of was talking about how Plo Koon, his attitude towards Ahsoka, kind of like, you have to have faith that things will work out, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And that really also mirrors an episode from season 1, where, if you remember, Plo Koon was trapped in the life pod with the 2 clones, and she would not give up trying to find him, even when everyone else was like, oh, he couldn't have survived. So that relationship goes both ways between those 2 characters, which I was thinking about later and thought, wow, that's a good way to kind of look at that.
Oh yeah, I really, really liked what he was talking about with the WolfPack, and how that kind of came to be. It was very, very interesting to hear. And I like that about him, that he knows what he's talking about. He knows his Star Wars. I totally forgot to mention Giancarlo Volpe, which is actually a buddy of ours. Well, somebody we've interviewed, but we've stayed kind of in contact with him. So that's something that I really, really like, is when Giancarlo shared his stories of Dave, and Dave kind of shared his story of how he was a Star Wars fan, and the stories match up, and I love that. I forgot to mention Giancarlo. I was going to tell Dave about that, but I slipped my mind. I mean, there were so many questions,
Yeah, time, limited and everything, but no.
But a lot of questions answered finally. I mean, I feel like this interview closed the Clone Wars for me, because I kind of really I think all of us got a lot of insight into what, some of the characters are and who we may be seeing again. And I do think Ahsoka's going to be back the way he was talking about it. So
he's very protective of that character, and I think rightly so.
Oh, without a doubt. And I'm glad he approved of me liking that character and that being my favorite character. I appreciate that. That's good. So
what a perfect way for you, Corey, to end the Clone Wars. You finally got the bonus content, and then you were able to interview him, and like you said, it feels like it's good closure for you. So that's good to hear that it worked out well.
Oh yeah, it's a real honor to kind of, go through the Clone Wars, and then as soon as the Clone Wars finishes, then we interview, Dave, who pretty much created the Clone Wars. So it's it's very cool to close that off that way. And
I almost kind of wanted to ask him if there was going to be more Clone Wars coming soon, but I kind of feel in a way like it's ending the way it's supposed to end.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's time. I think I've said this before. It's time for a new era of Star Wars, and I'm looking forward to meeting those fans.
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah, without a doubt. I mean, Star Wars is always been something where each generation it just gets bigger and bigger. And Clone Wars was one of those things that made it very big. But now with Rebels, I mean, it's gonna... Yeah, I think after this very long, like, drought of Star Wars, and we haven't really gotten too much. And now when Rebels hits, it's gonna be like, this is Star Wars now till the movies. So, I like that.
Yep, and it should keep us, entertained till then and so on after that.
Right. Mm-hmm. I like Dave's story about when Ralph came and watched the Clone Wars movie with him. That was very cool.
That was cool.
That was cool.
Yeah, it was a great closure for, like you said, to have Dave talk about the Clone Wars. The Clone Wars with ending with Ahsoka, that was a perfect end for now for Ahsoka. Then the Yoda arc in the bonus content, I think that was one of the best ways that actually end the Clone Wars series itself. So you get two different closures. You got Ahsoka's and you got the series itself.
You can kind of pick and choose which one you want to kind of close it.
Oh, I know what you're picking.
Yeah.
I like how he kind of meant, Ahsoka was not supposed to be in that episode in the Yoda arc, and kind of looked at it and said, yeah, I don't care about this character. Really needs to be... you need to have that emotional attachment, and it, as much as the Jedi are all about not having attachments, the fans certainly do.
Oh, without a doubt. And I think that's something that, he knows what fans want, and he, it's cool. It's really cool, to know that he knows what we want, and I think Rebels is gonna be an amazing series. I'm looking forward toward it, and it'll be premiering this summer, so that'll be cool.
What month was that? In September? It's premiering?
August.
August. Okay, yeah. So we're getting there.
Oh yeah, I mean, I didn't even realize how close summer was. I kind of just realized it.
Well, after this very long.
I don't know. It just snowed yesterday, so.
Yeah, I got that too. What a mess.
Yeah, it's quite something, isn't it? Well, I mean, that's pretty much all I have to say about it. It was an awesome interview, and hopefully we will be able to get the opportunity to talk with him again. So.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That'd be good. But thank you guys for listening to this special episode. Anything else, guys?
Yeah, thanks to Dave for taking the time out of his obviously busy schedule and rescheduling our interview for a few times, but it worked out in the end, and he was patient with us, which was great.
Yeah, that's something I also wanted to mention is thanks to Tracy who kept on scheduling us. She didn't just quit on us, so that was nice.
Yeah, that's very nice of them, and it was a pleasure to have them on.
Definitely. Well, thank you guys for listening to another episode of WolfPack Podcast, and you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, where you can find most of our exclusive content on YouTube. And, of course, some of our exclusive interviews over at iTunes, such as our Claire Grant interview. So, thank you guys for listening, and hope you guys are having a great week, and see you guys Friday. All right, may the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.
Alrighty, guys. Before we leave, Mike was able to record a quick bit right now, so go ahead, Mike. What are your thoughts on the whole Dave Filoni interview? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, definitely. It was a really great opportunity, and I was really glad I got to ask Dave a question about Ahsoka and the Mortis arc, because I asked Ashley at this past Star Wars weekends, and she told me it was a question for Dave Filoni, and it's something that I was just glad I could get answered, because who knew I would ever have the opportunity. And I was very satisfied with the answer that he gave me. It was a very well detailed, thorough answer. And then I got to ask him another question about Barriss Offee, who's one of my favorite characters in the Clone Wars, and that was really cool. That was very, I don't know what word I would use to describe it. It was very informative, but I was trying to think of a better word. But nevertheless, it was very informative, and we got some great insight to that character, what could have happened, and everything. So that was really great. So
could still happen.
What was that?
It could still happen. We'll see Barriss exploding in Rebels.
That would be great.
Wouldn't it?
But overall, very great and informative interview. It was great to have the opportunity to interview Dave because a lot of times, like, you might ask an actor a question about their character, you know, but their actors, like, it's not the same as, like, a director or a writer because those people are in charge of the storyline and they created the character so they have a better, you know,
idea, right.
Idea most of the time. So you know, it was really great because I'm sure we're all extremely satisfied with our answers. They're very thorough and just great.
Oh yeah, I mean, Dave is just a kind man. He's very nice. He was awesome. I really enjoyed it, and I mean, here's hoping that hopefully we'll get another chance to talk to him, you know, about some Rebels one day. So that's kind of cool. You know, that hopefully we get that opportunity. But it was just fun to talk to him, and yeah, so all right, it's pretty awesome. Alrighty, guys. Well, like I said before, check us out on Facebook and all that awesome stuff. So me and Mike signing out.
Yeah, thanks, Corey, for getting the interview, putting in the work and getting the interview so it's coming to fruition.
Yeah, no problem. My pleasure. Alrighty, everybody. May the Force be with you. WolfPack officially out. If it stops recording. Alright, WolfPack out, guys. Bye.
All rights belong to Disney and Lucasfilm or their respective copyright holders. This is a fan podcast, only meant for entertainment and information purposes. Head on over to StarWars.com for any official news, and be sure to subscribe to our channel, and the Force will be with you always.
So, in the Mortis arc, like when Ahsoka temporarily dies, and then Anakin, he's like, I noticed that he's like, he's really concerned about Ahsoka, which is natural because that's his apprentice, but he doesn't like acknowledge the fact that the light side of the Force died, and so I was wondering, like what do you think about that, like?
Wow, I've never been asked that question before.
I know, like...
That's definitely a question for Dave Filoni, but...
Yeah.
I mean, I would say Anakin's just really attached to Ahsoka, and that's what they say, attachment to the way of the dark side.
Exactly.
And so I don't think he's even focused on anything else besides Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Because he wants so badly for Ahsoka to come back.
Yeah, it like reinforces the whole idea of, like selfishness, like attachment, like you said, like it leads to the dark side because when you love somebody like that, like platonically or romantically, it leads to attachment, and then you're like vulnerable to do like bad things to protect them.
Well, it just leaves you. He wasn't thinking about others at the moment. He was just thinking about Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then I was wondering also, like, even though Ahsoka was like cast under like a spell by the sun, like do you think that she felt like any guilt even though it was not her fault at all, like since she indirectly kind of led to the death of the light side of the Force?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't think she fully comprehended at the time what happened.
Yeah.
I don't know if she fully remembered what happened.
Yeah.
I think partially she forgot about what happened.
Yeah.
But I don't know, actually. I wish Dave Filoni was sitting right here next to me.
Yeah, the Mortis arc is really awesome.
It's actually my favorite arc.
Yeah.
Next to the finale arc.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
So I love it.
All right, thank you very much. Can I get a quick picture with you?
Sure.
Thank you.